I can hear echo again, Chris Days. So well, you're muted now.
Exactly. It's not me.
So who's
Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But I can hear myself coming back when I'm talking. That's odd. Anyway. Who was that touching that then? It's you. It's yours.
Earpods.
He's like, it's not me. It's not me. So let me see. I'm just gonna mute Christopher. Christopher. Oh look at that, Paul. The echo goes away. So it clearly is Mr. Christie's.
Just keep me muted.
Oh, it's better now. Go on.
Yeah, sounds all right.
There you go. Good evening, everyone. Oh, what was that? Or something.
Just fireworks. Where were the fireworks from then?
Put a thumbs up again.
Wow.
What have you been doing? You've been checking the settings.
I promise you I haven't.
That's hard. Anyway, good evening, everyone. How the devil are you all? We are live with Chris Days, thumbs up extraordinaire. Chris Days, mortgage broker, owner of Go Mortgage. And tonight we have a new face this evening. On this side of me this evening, we have Paul Fitzpatrick. Paul is going to be here this evening to try and help anybody that has any questions relating to anything debt related. How can people move forward in regards to putting themselves in a better position? Whether that may be for a mortgage, whether that might be just generally. Paul, do you maybe want to start off and just explain exactly what it is that you do and what you could possibly help people with this evening?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I've worked in the financial sector for 20 years. I've worked in talking to practitioners. I've worked with debt plans, IVAs, bankruptcy, debt relief orders, a little bit with liquidating companies as well. So quite a wide range, really. I am also CMAT qualified as a mortgage advisor, but I don't really get involved in that side. That's obviously more Chris's side. And what I try to do is just look at, it's dead simple, really. I just look at somebody's debt situation with them and try and pinpoint the best way out. So I don't suggest you should do this or you should do that. It's more assessing the situation when somebody's struggling with the finances and then trying to find the best way to fix it, but on their terms. So as I said, we do it more on a non-advice basis, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So if there is anyone watching that feels that they've got questions that need to be answered, or something's niggling at them, or they're not quite sure what the next step forward is, then do drop your comments down in the box wherever you are watching from. We're on Chris Days, we're on Mortgage Advice, Help, Hints and Tips. We're also on YouTube Go Mortgage and Facebook Go Mortgage. So if you are watching this evening, say, give us a hello, we're here. And if you have got any questions, or even Chris, hello, Chris down there. Chris is here to answer anything mortgage related also. So if there is anything that you're looking to get answered this evening, then the guys are here free. So use it to your best advantage and get those questions answered. I'm just going to double check. As I didn't check it before. Oh, yep, I'm just checking out. We are live. Yes, thank you very much. Oh, and there's my voice. Don't need to hear that again. I did put a post up yesterday, maybe this morning or yesterday, just to remind people that we are here tonight doing this. So we have got actually a couple of questions that came in previously on the posts that we've posted. So I feel like we could maybe start with one of those, and then if some more come in, perfect. We can get those answered. So let's start with this one for either of you, I suppose. So we've got this one. Can I deal with debt on my own? Feel free to answer at your will.
So absolutely, you definitely can deal with debt on your own. What I try to say to some people is if they're a bit unsure, it's just a bit like how uncomfortable are you with your finances at the moment? Is it something where you're losing sleep? Are you getting to a point in the month where your wages have gone and you're living on credit? Are you just kind of feeling that there's maybe a change coming that you know that it's going to get worse? It's more initially kind of thinking about that. If you're just mildly uncomfortable, I always make suggestions such as print off the last 3 months of your bank statements, circle maybe where you're overspending or wasting money. It's not a fun thing to do, unfortunately. You'll kind of realize where you may be spending too much on coffee or going out or whatever else. But if you really want to bring it back within and get a bit more comfortable, it's a good thing to do.
I never even look at my bank statements. I'm terrible.
Well, I did it when I moved house because I knew the house was going to be more expensive. So I kind of did a bit of a review, and it was not great reading, to be fair. It's also like I'd never renewed my home contents before. I changed that, reduced that down, mobile phones, insurances, and it ended up freeing a lot more money just by not just looking at it on your phone, but it's the printing off, physically printing and circling and then calculating it. It's horrible to do, but if you want to get yourself back in better shape, then it's not a bad shout, really. But so short answer is yes, you can deal with it on your own. You can speak to your creditors on your own and go back to them and say, well, I may be struggling with the payments, and they are a bit more receptive than they were, say, 20 years ago. So basically, yeah, you can definitely deal with it on your own.
From our point of view, obviously, it makes a difference if somebody obviously hasn't got a mortgage. We can't really get involved, but if people are struggling, they've got loads of debt, we can potentially consolidate debt with a mortgage.
Yeah.
But obviously, we always advise people that they're turning short-term debt into long-term debt. So if they've got a credit card or a loan that could be potentially finished in 4 or 5 years' time, and they're adding it to the mortgage, they're going to be far better off monthly potentially, but that debt is then going to be with them for potentially 25, 30, 35 years as opposed to 4 or 5 years. A lot of people, though, would prefer to have that disposable income monthly, not be as stressed, have a life as well as having all the debt in the mortgage. And they don't mind turning it into longer term debt just to have that bit of freedom financially monthly so they can do things with the family. They can actually spend a bit of money. So yeah, we can help on sort of the debt consolidation side as well, but only if they've got a mortgage and they've got equity and it's affordable as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, isn't it? It's like sometimes like people say, well, I've got £20,000 of debt. And I'll say, are you struggling? And they'll say, no. I say, well, debt's fine. As long as you can afford it and maintain the payments and everything, having a bit of debt is okay. It's not the end of the world as long as you can afford it. But when things get in the way, redundancy, splitting with partner, health issues, all of these different things happen, then it gets difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. We've actually had a question. This is from Tommy. Can a 70-year-old get a buy-to-let mortgage, and at what percentage deposit?
Tommy Baldwin. So, yeah, potentially you're going to be more limited with lenders based on obviously being 70 years old, but there are lenders with buy-to-lets that will go to 90. And typically, obviously, buy-to-let, you need 20-25% deposit, whether you're 20, 30, 70, you're going to need 20-25% deposit. So, yeah, potentially 70-year-old, you can get a buy-to-let still, but you're just going to be more limited with lenders based on the fact that you're 70.
Okay. I feel like this is a member of the family. Phil
Daddy
Days.
Day. It's Daddy Days.
Oh, hello, Mr. Days. Thanks for joining, checking in. We've got another long question here. You might not see it all, actually. No. Hi, all. I'm trying to get on the property ladder and in full-time employment. I've been looking at a help to buy or part ownership. However, I have a default, which is 5 years old. I keep being advised that I need more deposit, which I'm struggling with. I have zero debt. How do I move forward? What's the best thing to do? I'm finding it difficult to keep adding to the deposit to increase this. I am a first-time buyer.
So, I mean, if the default's 5 years old, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. It depends what the rest of your credit file looks like. Obviously, it's hard to sort of give you any advice without looking at the credit report. Feel free to drop us an email. My email's, is it drop on the ticker?
It's admin@gomortgage.co.uk.
Yeah, drop us an email and I can sort of point you in the right direction in regards to credit files, have a look at your credit file, give you a few pointers. We do have access to a lot of lenders, so I'd be surprised if there wasn't somebody out there. If you're looking at Help to Buy, are you in Wales? Because Help to Buy has stopped everywhere else other than Wales. And obviously part ownership, shared ownership, if that's what you're on about, obviously you might be more limited based on the shared ownership, because obviously if there is a default and shared ownership, you're limiting your lenders straight away. But drop us an email and we can have a look for you and give you a bit of advice, put you in the right direction.
Perfect. I'm just going to pop this up because I see this a lot on when I'm answering comments and I see questions that come in. So one for you, Paul, I think. What's the difference between an IVA and a debt management plan, or you might just see it as a DMP?
Good question.
Yeah, so with a debt management plan, as long as you're struggling, you can look at doing it. So if, for example, somebody owes £20,000 and they're paying out £1,000 to that month and they can't afford it anymore, they can go onto a debt management plan. So let's say they can only afford £200. Again, number of reasons: split with partner, redundancy, or whatever issue it is. And let's say the debt management plan is the right way. The debt management company involved would then contact the companies, negotiate lower payments, work to freeze the interest and charges, and then just help control the debt. But with that one, it's very, very easy to set up. They can request proof of income, don't generally ask for it, but you will pay back all of your debt. It's not guaranteed to stop legal action. It's not guaranteed to stop interest and charges, and it's classed as an informal arrangement. So it's kind of pretty easy going, but if you have a very large amount of debt and you're going to pay a very small amount of money, it could run for a very long time. Credit rating effect on debt management is generally you'll get defaults because you've broken contracts. That damages your credit file for 6 years. But the IVA, the main difference is debt management is all informal and it's all negotiation, and we're going to try and do this and try and do that, not guaranteed. With an IVA, it's a formal legal agreement. It's been around since 1986, but you have to provide income, wage slips, bank statements, ID. You have to provide a lot of information. There's a lot of criteria to qualify. But if you do qualify, on the same example, then it's guarantees to stop legal action, guarantees to stop interest and charges, and it guarantees that you will be clear of your debt in general. People say 5 years, but sometimes it can be 6. So let's just say 6 years. And at the end of that term, any debt left over is written off. But it can be tricky to qualify for, and it is a form of insolvency, so it would damage your credit rating for 6 years. It can affect certain jobs. So sometimes police officers are maybe struggling in certain roles. So police officers, for example, struggle to go into an IVA because it's on a public register, it's on the insolvency register. But it's more, IVA is more guaranteed if you get accepted, and the debt management plan's easier to get on, but it takes longer, not as guaranteed. Well, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And in regards to if somebody has an IVA and a debt management plan, all the time, this is the question on a lot of the reels that Chris has done on social media is, I've got an IVA or a debt management plan. Can I get a mortgage?
Well,
So
debt management you can't you, Chris? I think, depending on the situation.
yes, the IVA would have to be satisfied, settled, paid off, whatever you want to call it. And the day after, we have got options. People think the IVA is finished, and because it goes off the credit file, they're going to be okay. Lenders still don't like it for another 6 years after you've come out of the IVA. So obviously it's going to depend how the credit file looks, but a lot of lenders will ask, have you been in a debt management plan? Have you been in an IVA? Most high street lenders are not going to look at you for another 3 to 6 years after you've come out. And typically, so like we have lenders that will look at you the day after, but they're going to want a 25-30% deposit. Debt management plan, it depends how it's affected your credit file. So as long as a debt management plan has been well conducted and you've got a decent sized deposit, you can potentially get a mortgage. So, but obviously it depends. Most people who've been in a debt management plan, when we get hold of their credit files, the credit file is absolutely fooked.
Yeah.
To put it nicely, because of the amount of defaults, because of the amount of mispayments, the credit is like literally in the gutter, and it's then a case of building that back up.
Yeah.
But there is more options with a debt management plan for sure.
Yeah, because one's insolvency and the other is just defaults, isn't it? So the IVA is just a bigger effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just keeping an eye on some of the platforms. Just looking out for any other questions that might come in that I'm not quite seeing. Hello, mortgage advice, helps, hints and tips. I can see we've got viewers from that page. Come and say hi. Let me know where are you all watching this from. That would be really helpful. Oh yes, this feels like it's me, but it's not me. I'm an impulsive buyer. Can anything be done to get out of credit agreements due to my condition?
I think it depends on the condition. There can be things like irresponsible lending and all the rest of it. I suppose the best thing on that one is to whoever it is that you borrowed the money from, just to ring them up, maybe explain it and see what their process from there. Really, that would be probably the best way to handle that one.
Perfect. Hope that answered your question. I think you're being tested here. Phil Days, what's worse on your credit report?
In relation to which?
The IVO, the debt management plan.
Well, IVAs, because IVA's insolvency. So it's like IVA, bankruptcy, and debt relief order. They're all obviously forms of insolvency, whereas like debt management plans or setting your own arrangements. So there's no real difference. If you had a debt with your bank and you rang your bank and you negotiate a lower payment, you're breaking your contracts and you get default. So the debt management plan, sometimes people say to me, I've missed all these payments, but I don't want to do a debt management plan because that's going to cause the default. And it's like, it's not that. It's because you're breaking the contract. So if you did it on your own, you'd still get default, same as the debt management plan. Whereas IVA, debt relief order, and bankruptcy are all forms of insolvency. But bankruptcy and debt relief order have a slight more effect than an IVA because the IVA you're actually paying something back.
Okay. Generally, at what stage would you advise somebody to seek help in regards to debt?
Good question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as soon as you start to feel like struggling, if you're feeling, again, there's like the trigger signs, isn't there, where right, I haven't got any spare cash at all. I'm having to live on the credit cards on occasion, and it just seems to. Then they end up taking a loan, and they'll even say to me, "I took this last loan, Paul, as a last roll of the dice. It was just keeping me going for a few more weeks or a few more months." And it's just they'll sign up for a loan where they'll borrow £3,000 and pay £7,000 back, and they never wanted to do it in the first place. So I think looking at some sort of advice before they start pushing themselves further is always a good thing. So I suppose as soon as you're uncomfortable, there's loads and loads of free advice out there. It's there's step changed, and I can speak to people. There's lots of different types of help. You don't have to always like sign up for things. Sometimes people just need a chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Andrew, what if you have settled the IVA a year later? It comes off my report September this year. Is it worth waiting till then before I buy?
In time, obviously, potentially your credit report is only going to get better provided you don't miss anything, providing you get credit and you start using it in the correct way. So yeah, in time it is going to be better. Option wise, you're probably going to still need a big deposit though. So if you think that by waiting a year you're then going to suddenly get a mortgage with a 5% deposit, you're probably dreaming a little bit. You're probably still going to need sort of 15 to 25% deposit a year later. It depends on personal circumstances. If you've got a 25-30% deposit, I would say get a mortgage as quick as you can, because getting things like a mortgage is going to increase your credit score. It's going to build the credit back up. So anything where you can build your credit file back up, in my opinion, is going to help you. But obviously waiting a year might get a bigger deposit, might put you in a better position. It just depends. Everyone's circumstances are different. I don't think there's a right and wrong answer, to be fair.
Okay. Any progression on that, Paul, or are you good?
I think it's affordability as well, isn't it? Because if you've got a massive deposit and a really high income, then that's isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I've mentioned this with Chris previously, but I'd like to get your opinion possibly. In regards to in the education system, that finance, money, savings how to look after your money and how to not end up in some of the situations that people get into is just not taught in schools. So recently, our niece, she's 21 this month. She's managed to buy her first house. But she was that kid who like didn't spend a single dime. All her wage went away. She was really on it with it. But basically, she's pretty much like a minority, really, of that age bracket because they're not taught it in schools, are they? So it would make a massive difference, do you not think, if it was?
I think we talk a lot about like life skills classes. They're not just finance, but just even make, not just coming home with like a cheesecake, coming home with proper healthy meals, financials, how to run bank accounts, little savings pots, just
Yeah.
not really difficult stuff that's not really shown. I've got 2 daughters myself, and I've talked to them, well, bore them to death about it, but I'm always talked about the financials and putting a bit aside and, what to kind of maybe do down the line, with particularly getting on the ladder and whatnot, because that's what I hope for down the line at some point.
Yeah.
We're the same with ours. Both of ours have got investment ISAs. They both understand what they are, and they're 10 and 13, and they know how important it is. But obviously, that's coming from a background where we're all work within finance and mortgages and money, so we know how important it is. Going back to what you said, Joy, I think it's definitely something that needs to be introduced at maybe high school level.
Yeah.
But not just mortgages, like credit files, just everything in regards to that side of like life is like a major part which is missing for people. The amount of times we get credit reports and people are like, this was never taught, we never knew how important it was, and it's like it's quite a simple thing, but like massively lacking in any education.
Yeah. It's the managing money, because it's that knock-on effect, like you said, that it has on a credit file, that knock-on effect of not having the understanding of how to deal with money, how to look after money, like what is the best way moving forward with that pay packet that you've just got. Because then you do end up in those situations later in life when it comes to be that you're looking for mortgages and stuff like that, and you're like, that was from when I was in my 20s, I'm still paying it off. So yeah, it's just something that I'm literally
being a bit more open to talking about it as well. Like the amount of people I speak to that are ashamed to talk about the finances, or they're overspending, or they're in a lot of debt. But I'll kind of say there'll be lots and lots of people that you work with, or or your family members that'll be in exactly the same spot as you, but they won't discuss it. It's just needs to be talked about a little bit more. Really, there's no things happen, don't they? Sometimes finances get out of control, and I've kind of feel quite lucky that I got into finance at the age of like 20, because it was only from seeing what I've seen very early that I was a bit like, wow, you can easily see how this goes wrong. It's
Same.
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely the same.
Okay. I have a child shouting me, so I'm going to leave you both with this question to answer. Is it true you can borrow more or get a better rate with a key worker mortgage?
Potentially, yeah. There are lots of lenders that will look at key workers. I know of one that will offer like 6 times maybe on salary, but is it the type of lender that we would want to go to? Probably not, because they're a more specialist lender, so there's going to be far better options. It depends how much you're earning as well. There are lenders that will do 5.5 times generally anyway, so it just depends on your other criteria. But yeah, there are lenders that will have schemes for key workers, but it might not be beneficial to use those particular lenders, is what I would say. Let's have a look at some of the other stuff while she's gone. Let's do that one. Another one for you, Paul.
Oh yeah. So will I lose my bank account if I do a debt relief order or something similar? If you do a debt relief order or IVA or bankruptcy, if you've got debt with that bank, so say you bank with Barclays, you've got maybe an overdraft and a credit card or a loan, Barclays will generally want you to leave. So you wouldn't lose your account as in you can get another account. So you can open a brand new bank account somewhere else. Sometimes people say to me, well, we'll even get a card with it and all the rest. You'll get a perfectly normal bank account just with a different bank, like a fresh start. but you won't get an overdraft. But what you will get is online banking, contactless payment, chip and bin, everything that you need from a normal bank account. You just won't get the overdraft facilities anymore. So
Just
if you
any
do go
credit
down
facilities.
that's it. Yeah. But I say if you kind of got debt with that bank, they won't want you to stay there when you've got a debt relief order or some of the other options as well.
No.
But the short answer is yes, you can get. You won't lose your bank account. You might just have to get something different.
Okay. You've not pulled us off live while I was gone, guys. Well done. Right. So stop it with the thumbs up. I don't know what you've done. Have you actually messed with anything to get that?
I promise I've not done anything. I didn't even know what the link was.
No, I don't know.
I feel like I don't believe him, Paul. I feel like that's why he was late. What are you doing?
I don't know. I'm just trying different hand gestures.
Just trying to get your fireworks going. Okay, so we've got this one from Daniel. Daniel, how many years of limited for a mortgage?
Minimum 1 year, but you are literally limited with lenders. So ideally, when you're self-employed, you want 2 years books, but we do have lenders with 1 year. So yeah, minimum 1 year.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet, absolutely. And then someone likes your fireworks.
Go on, Dave Lucas.
Okay, we've got one here. This one is: have you any experience with people on a low income or universal credit or both? Savings are limited on universal credit. How do people with disabilities obtain a mortgage?
So we're doing a mortgage at the minute for somebody who doesn't have an earned income and all their income is via benefits or maintenance. So there are lenders out there that don't require an earned income. So yeah, we have experience with that. Obviously, in regards to savings, it depends what your credit file looks like. Potentially, you might only need a 5% deposit. But obviously, looking at lenders where they don't want an earned income and just looking at saving benefit income, we are more limited. So there isn't as many options. But yeah, if you need some help, drop us an email.
Okay. Daniel's back. Thank you. Does the net profit of the company count somehow on top of the personal incomes?
So when you're self-employed, the two ways that the lenders are going to look at your income is either salary and dividend or salary and net profit. So it depends if you get more dividends than net profit. It depends obviously what your net profit looks like. Sometimes it'll be better for people to do the salary and net profit. Sometimes it'll be better to do the salary and dividends. So yes, the net profit can be used.
Okay. A friend of mine's just WhatsApped me. Don't know how serious to take this. Can you be arrested for debt?
No, I mean, I suppose depending on if there's a bit of fraud involved, possibly for that. But people talk a lot about like council tax. There is potentially massive legal actions with council tax. It's mainly around the bailiff side of things, but again, there is something you can apply for now, which a lot of people don't seem to know about. So, say there's people who are maybe watching or listening and they're really struggling and they're not maybe prepared or mentally ready maybe to talk about it. You can apply online for something called Breathing Space. It's a government scheme. It's free. It was put together in May 2021. You'll just apply online through like gov.uk and it gives you up to 60 days breathing space. So it stops enforcement action, it stops interest and charges, and it just gives you a full 60 days to kind of let things calm down, because sometimes people would make the wrong decision on which, whereas with that, it just gives you that calm period, get your finances in a bit of order. So breathing space on gov.uk is definitely worth a look if you just need to literally breathing space, really.
But how would that affect everything? So if you did that and you had 60 days, does it mean you don't have to pay anything for 60 days, but then that shows mistakes on your credit file?
They'll still ask you to possibly pay on it, but I think just delays it slightly on kind of being serious. But it's more, I suppose, with the breathing space, it's again, I've spoken to a lot of people this last couple of weeks where bailiffs knocking at the door and it's like, right, get straight into breathing space, and then they start to look at their options a bit more. So, if you're mildly uncomfortable, it might be slightly extreme to do that. But if it's really, really gone or it's going to go, doing breathing space just say stops the action, stops the interest and charges.
Buys you a bit of time.
Yeah.
Just going to pop that there whilst
Yeah.
whilst we speak about that. It's actually I knew somebody that got into a very bad space because the letters, the phone calls, they were just so insane because they did get themselves into a bit of a pickle. But it's surprising what that can actually do to someone, I suppose, as well. It's that fear.
Yeah.
You're constantly on that fear, but you don't know how to get off the roller coaster, I suppose, isn't it?
A lot of people bury their head in the sand, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something that I've started to suggest to people where I'll say, but if you're really, really struggling with it, it's just about making a little start. So we say, if you're throwing letters in the bin, say I'll burn them, I'll just throw them off, just completely get rid of all the letters. And then they're never really organized to get sorted. So I kind of say to people, if you're really struggling, but again, you're not ready for the help, if you just get like one little folder, all the horrible letters that you get, just put it in the folder of doom, put it all in there, and then even if you're not ready to do it today, when you are ready to actually take a bit of control, it's all in that folder. And then you think, right, I can open up the folder. I'm feeling strong enough to be able to do that, and then maybe get to talk to somebody from there. But I just think when I speak to people, say I don't know where any bailiff's letters are, and it just makes it really difficult to get things going, and then they lose the confidence a bit. Whereas it's just in that loads of letters, at least it's organised, isn't it?
So if you have a client who obviously wants to speak to you and wants to go through the process with you helping them, would you get that folder off them and sort all that out, or is it down to them?
Well, I mean, obviously, you can do like credit checks. You obviously advise people to do the check my file through the links that you provide. So there's that. I would always suggest people who've got a bit of debt with that, because somebody recently thought there were like £30,000 in there. Thought there were 30, and they're actually like 47. So it was a bit of a surprise, and they didn't factor, they didn't realise about the interest. So doing things like that, even if you're doing that again on your own, you have to talk to them in little things. You can just start to gather your own. So yeah.
Okay. It's quite I suppose if anyone is listening that is in debt, doesn't quite know where to go, doesn't know how to even approach trying to sort it, what would be like 3 things that they could start doing, or who to contact, basically?
I say number one, drop one of us an email. Obviously, reach out for starters.
Yeah, it's all free advice. You don't have to talk to anybody about that. There's no, judgment on my side. It's just all I care about is helping them get to fix the problem. There's a massive upturn as well in kind of gambling problems. So if somebody's really struggling, maybe signing up for GamStop wouldn't be a bad start, because it at least stops the rot with that. And then that's one problem that's partly fixed. Organising the letters, doing a credit check through the check my file stuff. And just having a chat with somebody, even if it's a friend or family initially. But there's lots of people that said, "Oh God, I've just mentioned you to my sister. Will you talk to my sister?" And I was like, "Have you spoken to her before?" No, I didn't even know she had any debt. And then she noticed it was a bit of a change because I've got it off my chest.
What's Gamble Stop? I didn't even know about that.
Yes, what? Sorry.
What's the Gamble Stop that you're on about?
A GamStop, it basically just stops you gambling online. Completely. But as I say, sometimes I'll get bank statements where it's just page after page, just because they're in that desperate a position that they'll say, "I'm trying to actually just win the money to keep me going through the month or keep maintaining the credit," and then they just lose more. And the GamStop just basically stops online gambling. So good for mortgage clients as well.
So it bars them from actually getting onto the online site.
Any sites.
Bars them.
Wow.
Yeah, any gambling sites. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So that's a big step that they'd have to take, though, isn't it, to even put that in place?
Again, sometimes you have the conversation with people to sort of say, well, look, because it's like when people look at IVAs, like with an IVA, for example, if you get accepted, you're potentially going to get thousands of pounds written off. But the insolvency practitioners and creditors won't have to agree. The creditors have to agree to the IVA. If they look at your bank statements, you're gambling £500 every month, they would then say, well, we're not going to let you apply for an IVA, for example, until you've got control of other issues such as gambling. So occasionally I'll have to say to clients, if you want to get obviously you get a bit in depth with it, really, unfortunately, but if you want help, you need to sort of get control of that problem as well.
Yeah. Okay. If there is anyone that is wanting to reach out, the email address is on the bottom, admin@gomortgage.co.uk. Chris, Paul, whoever it is, somebody is going to be on the end of that email that will be able to listen and point you in the right direction, whether that be to Paul or whether Chris can be something that can be helping you with. So if there is anyone, please do reach out if you need to. The guys are there and ready to take your emails.
On that, I just view it as having a chat and helping them clear their head. So it's not, I'm not going to say you should do this option. It's just more, let's clear your head, let's have a chat about it, and then the client takes it and go from there. That's it, just looking at options.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, Daniel, for example, if I pay myself as a director, let's say a salary of 10,000, and there is an after-tax profit in the company of another 10,000, do I have to pay myself dividends in order to make it count for 20,000?
No. If you did pay yourself dividends, then obviously that's fine. You could go down the salary and dividends route. If you just got 10 grand net profit or retained profit, then obviously there's lenders that will go down the salary and net profit route. So either way, you can use it.
Okay. Lovely. Oh, I've lost my chat. Where's my chat? And there it is. Perfect. So if there is anyone that is wanting to ask Paul a question, we're going to be here for a couple of more minutes this evening. So if there is any others that would like to be asked, then pop them in the comments right now, because it is going to be the last chance you're going to get. And then even if there's people that are going to watch this back, hopefully, that may comment after. And if they do, I can quite happily send the comments if it's for Paul or if it's for Chris. We can get it answered there as well. So yes, Daniel has replied, thanks very much, I'll get in touch. Thanks, Daniel. That's not a problem. I'm just going to check another, making sure I'm not missing anything, because sometimes we get a little gremlin in here. Have you calmed down now, Paul?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, she's sticking you in there, isn't she?
I was a little nervous at the start, but you've done amazing, Paul, let's be honest.
Not my natural environment, unfortunately.
You're a natural.
I'm not like you, Chris.
Mate, I'm horrendous.
At least you're not swearing.
I'm on my best behaviour.
Mm-hmm. He's only got one warning from... Honestly, we're going to have to turn that off, whatever that is.
No, I'm going to find more.
Okay. I dread to even put my thumbs up, because I won't get anything, and then it'll just be a screenshot of me with my thumb up.
There is a question at the bottom you've seen that we've not answered. I have a lot of debt one.
I have a lot of debt. Bear with me. Bear with me.
I can't see that. Oh, yeah.
Probably a reasonably short answer on that one, to be fair. Where it says, I have a lot of debt and unsure what to do. Yeah.
You can't get the staff, Paul.
I couldn't find it.
You've got it on there now, haven't you?
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
I think, obviously, you'll know on this one, Chris, it's if they want it says on there, if you want credit high, then doing a remortgage would be better for the credit rating than doing, debt plans and all the other stuff, isn't it? So
yeah, obviously, if you've got the equity and you've got the affordability, then obviously doing a remortgage and debt consolidation is going to be far better, especially for your credit rating.
Sorry. Bye.
Thanks, pal. Thank you. See you later. Bye. Thank you.
Sorry. Just letting the cat in.
Between you two, if it's not cats, it's dogs with him, so perfectly home.
We said as long as people are aware that they're turning short-term debt into long-term debt, like I touched on before. But yeah, first port of call, if you've got a mortgage and you've got equity and you've got the affordability, obviously you're going to have more affordability if you pay your debt off. It's a massive weight lifted off a lot of people when they consolidate debt. Just puts me in a far better financial position.
Well, that's it. But I think as well, sometimes people will apply for the remortgage, it gets refused, and then that takes that option out, and then we look at other stuff. So yeah, but yeah, definitely credit rating.
Perfect. And just to end on, what would be your leaving bit of advice for anyone who has listened to this evening and is in a pickle? What would be your little bit of advice before we leave for the evening?
I think do the credit check, find out where you're actually standing. Think about how you're actually feeling, how uncomfortable I am with the situation. Because again, it's like sometimes I'll talk to people and I'm like, didn't even realize how bad it was. I've just been getting on with it. And it's been like this for a long time. And particularly with certain high interest rates, people will say, well, I've been sitting around £20,000 for a couple of years, so they're not getting anywhere. So it's not like progressing or bringing the payments down or whatever else. And so yeah, credit check, think about how they're actually feeling, and also as well have a little think about where am I going to be in 3 to 6 months? Will I still be in the same position? Is it going to get worse? And obviously speak to somebody as well. I'll definitely have a chat with anybody if they need it. There's the step change and money advice service and all the rest of it as well. So just don't ignore it.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Sounds like a great one to end on, to be honest. Yeah, so I think we're going to end it there. If there is anybody that does have any more questions, if you are watching this back at a later time and wants it answered, admin@gomortgage.co.uk is the email address to send any queries to, and and the team will be happy to answer that. So next week we do have another live. Who do we have? Bridging loans next week.
Mark Evans.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, next week it's going to be bridging loans. So hopefully we can possibly get you back on, Paul, and do another one a little bit later on in the year perhaps, and bring you back because I do think this is definitely a subject that a lot of people will have listened to and got a lot from. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, thank you for everyone for joining us this evening, and we will be back next week at 8 o'clock as always. Chris will be live on TikTok throughout the week anyway. Me and Chris might pop on again as well. But yeah, if anyone needs anything answering, admin@gomortgage.co.uk. But for myself, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much, Chris. And we'll see you all again soon.
No problem. Cheers, Joey. Catch you later.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.